Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to HR Talk Time, and I hope everybody is keeping well. I'm Anton Whitefoot. I'm our HEM sales leader for the public sector across UK and Ireland. Thanks very much for joining us this afternoon for our panel session in support of Mental Health Awareness Week. It's been a challenging, fascinating and unprecedented last few months for everybody. I'm sure everyone will agree with that. And it's fascinating to see how home lives, work lives, everything have blurred into one for absolutely everybody. And it's going to be great today to talk about how and get some great advice around how various people have dealt with that, different perspectives, and as we look forward, what the future of work looks like. So I'm delighted to be joined by our panellists, and I'd like each panelist to introduce themselves, if that's okay. So Keith, if you could introduce yourself, please.
Thank you, Anton, and thank you, Oracle, for putting this on. I'm Suki Bassi. I work for Happy Maven. We're an employee wellbeing business, so we advise corporate clients on not just how to not break people, but hopefully support them to thrive. We help them with their corporate culture, and I think sort of the key thing that we do is that we're a critical friend and support to HR. So I'm really glad that you're shining a spotlight on this topic today, Anton. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Suki. And Beth, over to you, please.
Oh, hi everyone. I'm Beth Husted. I'm the Rehabilitation and Wellbeing Manager at Unum. Unum's an employee benefits provider. The area I work most closely with is the group income protection side, and we are actually a provider for Oracle. So my role is with regards to supporting our customers' well-being, not just Oracle's, all the other customers, looking at providing mental health and well-being audits, looking at line manager training, resilience training, supporting with implementing absence management processes, etc.
Beth, thanks very much. And Jenna, over to you, please.
Yeah, hi, thanks everyone. So yeah, I'm Jenna and I'm the Health and Wellbeing Manager at Oracle. So I'm sitting internally on the Oracle side of things, supporting the Health and Wellbeing Programme for the 5,000 UK employees that we have here. And obviously as part of that, working closely with HR as well.
Thanks, Jenna. I suspect you've been quite busy recently. And Debi, over to you.
Hi, Anton. Thank you very much. I feel really overwhelmed to be with such great people on the call, but my name's Debi Ashby. I work for Oracle as a Solution Engineering Director, and my role is working with our customers and supporting them in understanding the capabilities of the Oracle Cloud HCM solution. But for me, the whole aspect of well-being in these current climates is close to my heart, as I was a HR practitioner years ago. So for me, I have multiple hats when I'm sitting here with you today. So thank you, Anton.
Thanks, Debi, and a very warm welcome to you all. So thanks for that. Before we get into the Q&A and the discussion with the panel, everybody, you'll have the opportunity to ask some questions. We'll pick those up at the end of the session. And if you type your questions in the Q&A section that hopefully you can see at the bottom of the screen, then that will be great. We'll pick them up. Okay. So a couple of questions to get things started, and a question to the panelists, and happy to go in any particular order. Just after some personal insight over the past unprecedented couple of months, unprecedented for absolutely everybody, what you have learned from a personal experience, and as I said in my intro, work, home life, all of that being completely welded into one amorphous blob for everybody. It'd be great to get some personal insights as to your experiences through that. So maybe, Suki, if I could ask you to start, please.
Yeah, of course, Anton. And I'm sure that we can't wait until we're not using the word unprecedented in every other sentence. It's been an interesting couple of months, and I think the one thing that I have learnt myself is that I'm far more resilient than I'd previously, given myself credit for. And one of the things that I think I've really had some insight, not just from myself, but from clients, is that we've all built upon foundations that we'd already previously created. So my resilience didn't just kick in on, Friday the 13th when we took the decision to start working from home. I had and I talk about this, in my work, a full-on breakdown 14 years ago. And it was when I sort of, on a path to recovery, rebuilt myself. I gave myself lots and lots of tools and structure to support my recovery. And it's that, I think, that I've really had to tap deeply into in this last couple of months. The structure of looking after my physical health, my mental health, reaching out for help and support when I've needed it. And I think the key thing is also to learn to be kind to yourself when it doesn't quite work out or when you have a bad day. So I think, to me, the silver lining has been that I am a lot more resilient than I previously gave myself credit for.
I think resilience, a fascinating word and trait to have. I think the folk I work with, generally resilience and run a sales organisation, so you'd expect that to be a key aspect and behaviour they have. We've all seen, I think, a new meaning of what resilience means when everything, as I said, gets blurred into one. And I've had to see people who are normally extremely resilient and never take no for an answer, but have to come up with a whole new definition of the word to deal with challenges they would never have expected to have.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting you say not take no for an answer, for us to distinguish between tenacity and resilience. And resilience is not infinite. It has to constantly be topped up. And I think that's what we're realizing. It's that buoyancy factor.
Yeah, absolutely. Beth, maybe same question to you, please, if I could.
Yeah, so I actually, funnily enough, started keeping a notes record on my phone, just every now and then, just dating it throughout the past. I can't even remember how long it's been, just with little things that I have learned about myself or what's been going on. And the same ones come up quite regularly. So the importance of exercise, healthy eating, and having that kind of work-life integration. I've always had a work-life integration in that I've been a full-time working mum, raising a child, getting to the hobbies, doing all of that. But now that's all on top of each other. Partners there, we're all working in the same room. You can see his laptop in the background, she's sitting over there. So I think just having that balance, that integration, working the boundaries between the two. But if I don't get those sort of 5 sessions of exercise a week, how much that impacts negatively. I think my obsession with Whispering Angel has got out of control now, so that needs to be put into lockdown. The importance of that kind of face-to-face interaction, even just in this way, is just so invaluable. And I've even learned, because I have my screen over here, I've started to move everything onto my laptop when I have those one-to-ones, so then I can have eye contact, which just was really, really missing for about 4 weeks before I forgot that I could move onto my second screen. And then the other ones that I think are important is the importance of fun. We seem to be getting really bogged down in just how rubbish everything is and how miserable things can be, and actually just having that fun. And yesterday afternoon, it's been a really long day, and it was that really hot day, and I bought my daughter a unicorn paddling pool. She'd been in it, and I hadn't even once joined in, because I was like, I've got to work, I've got to do this. And I thought, no, do you know what? I know it's 3 PM and I should be working, but she needs a bit of fun mum time. So in I jumped, fully clothed, and had that sort of fun. I just think that's really important. And the last one is just that importance of friendships. I think it's really important to forget those key pivotal friendships that make the world or make your life go round. And when you're in that sort of stress time and not feeling your best, you can often enclose yourself even more. But actually opening up and really locking in with those friendships and putting that time aside, because that's going to be vital to your well-being as well.
Thanks, Beth. I think on the fun thing, I think what I've struggled with is, going from very structured working days, and the demarcation between work and home is very clear. Even, we've worked from home before, but when work from home is work, that's your only option. What I've tried to do and tried to do with my teams is, it doesn't matter how busy you are. You would never have thought previously to have taken an hour out your day to go and jump in a paddling pool, or go for a walk, or do something, whatever you need to clear the head and just reset. And I've tried to make sure everybody, no matter how busy they are, and we're at a particularly busy time of our year, it doesn't matter. Forget all of that, clear some time in the diary, go and do what you need to do just to relax, reset, and then regroup.
Bond as well. Bond with the people you live with.
Well, I think
You've got to live with them. You need to get on.
that's right. I think the family proximity, the pressures that people have been under there, as well as the benefits. A lot of people travel a lot of time away from home, and all of a sudden they're at home all the time now, which is a great benefit in a way, but introduces a very different dynamic.
100%.
So, good, thanks. Jenna, how about yourself? What are you seeing across the business?
Yeah, so from my individual experience, I mean, Beth and Suki have touched on it a little bit really, but one main thing I've really noticed, and I think people should be encouraged to do, is take that downtime, and that could include taking some annual leave. We've probably all been working quite non-stop since all this happened, and there's kind of this pressure to feel like you have to be busy, you have to be there, you have to be present, and because we're not able to go on the holidays we probably had planned. I've seen people cancelling their leave or thinking they can't take it, and actually even if you can't do much with the time, you can't go where you thought you were going to go, actually just having that break from work and maybe just spending more of that time unbroken with your family or whatever it is still really important. So I've taken a couple of extra days. I've got tomorrow off and Tuesday off just so I get a longer weekend. I won't do much else with it, but at least I don't have to come and sit right in front of my laptop again, day in, day out. So that's been a key learning for me. And then the other piece, Beth, you touched on it, is just around communication, and we've all been adjusting to having to do things on Zoom and making those connections, which is great. But I think there's just a deeper piece around actually still trying to have those proper connections with people rather than the day-to-day work chat. And I've already found out a few things about people that I didn't know just through having a non-work related conversation with someone, even if you're on a work call, which is really, really good as well. So yeah, they're the two main things for me, I think, at this point.
Thanks, Jenna. And I think the holiday point is really, really interesting. And I think when lockdown started, it was we were heading into initial holiday season around Easter. And I think almost everybody universally took the mindset of, well, let's not bother, let's carry on. But as it's gone in these 3-week kind of chunks, then hang on a minute, you need time away. And an hour a day, as we just talked about with Beth, is fine, but actually let's step back. And I've been encouraging my folks and myself to say, well, after the first few weeks of almost going from a very frantic working week and looking forward to the weekend to reset, you almost dread the weekend because you can't do anything and you're in the same environment as you're in at work. But now very much the focus needs to be on getting proper time away. And the first couple of bank holidays came, I think, really quickly, and it's like, oh, hang on, we can't go and do anything. Whereas now they're a godsend. Just stop the Zooms, or at least the work Zooms, get away from it, go and get out and see, just clear the head. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks for that. Debbie, your point of view on this as well, please.
Okay, so a bit like the ladies who've spoken, if I think a bit from an Oracle perspective, the ability to work from home is not new. So that adjustment was relatively easy for me. However, what did I do differently was to host, and a bit like what Jenna was talking about, I've held virtual coffee breaks with my team every day just to give us the ability to have a check-in point. They have been a phenomenal lifesaver. And to your word, Suki, the resilience in the team that has come through that has just been unprecedented for me. We've got to know each other as human beings rather than the robots or the people that we work with, which has been fabulous. The other piece I would say is we've talked about Zoom, and we're on Zoom now. Zoom's been an invaluable tool to support the business. However, I can honestly say I'm on Zoom fatigue. I feel like I'm in a goldfish bowl because it's another set of people. I feel like I'm swimming around and, oh, there's another set of people, and they all start to blur. So I think this desire by people to stay busy, but also to be seen busy, has meant that I've been on more Zoom meetings than I have ever been on. And I wouldn't have ever had to attend that many face-to-face meetings. So I think it's understanding what do we do and why do we need to do it. And then the final point is where Beth spoke about being a mum. I'm a working mum. And that challenge of working from home, homeschooling, and all the meltdowns that go with that, and having to be able to manage that. And as you've talked about, Anton, being able to turn the laptop off and accept that now I am mum and then I am at work. And for me, the top tip was, and again, it comes back to what Suki said, was being kind to yourself first. Because if you can't cope yourself, how are you going to be the mum, how are you going to be that professional at work? So for me, it's been quite a roller coaster and an education, and very enlightening.
Yeah, it has been. I think the Zoom thing's fascinating, and everybody got really creative, and then the family quiz on a Saturday night and keeping in touch with sister and niece and uncle and nephew is all fine. And then 6 weeks in, you're like, if I have to do another Zoom, I think I'm going to pop. So it just finding different ways. I think the mum thing is fascinating. I spoke to a customer for the very first time, had a scheduled meeting with her, a new stakeholder in an organisation we're doing some work with. I'd never spoken to this lady before, and we had a scheduled meeting at 10 o'clock, and she joined at 10:05, and she was hugely apologetic. And the very first thing we spoke about was the fact she was late because she'd just finished homeschooling her kids on maths and arithmetic. So just this blurring of parenting, schooling, and work all together. There's just been lots of examples of that. So thanks for that. Some very useful input there. Second thing, your personal experiences we've talked about, personal perspectives on the last couple of months. Now, HR functions, and obviously you're all current or have been HR practitioners in various shapes or forms. What advice would you give to HR functions across many industries, many geographies? What are you seeing, and what have you learned when we've talked about some of the themes and traits and aspects here to enable a business to work as well as they can in this working environment? Suki, would you like to start with that?
Yeah, of course, Anton. I'm still stuck on Beth's word of fun. I love that. I think I'm going to put it on a post-it right in front of my desk. My advice to HR and to the rest of C-suite leadership is that this experience has put corporate culture under the spotlight. And there hasn't, let's be really honest, there hasn't been new ways of working in this last 2 months. Yes, we're utilising technology. What we've actually seen is just a magnification of your existing strengths, or unfortunately your existing weaknesses. It's, and that I've really seen across my clients. And the leaders and companies who have embraced empathy, just like what you've been saying to your team, Anton, I love that. You've embraced empathy, you've embraced trust, you've embraced collaboration and communication. They're the ones who are weathering this storm. And, if I distill that down, that essentially means that we embrace a people first approach, and everything else then ripples out from that. And I know, we've got individuals on this call. We haven't got companies, we've got individual human beings on this call. So my key piece of advice to all of the HR leads and representatives is that you have an opportunity, you really have a golden opportunity to model this people first approach, to model this behavior. And that means, I think back to what Debbie said, it means you've got to start with yourself, and you've got to start with your well-being, because that's the only way that you'll ensure that it's a sustainable approach for your team, for your organisation, for your customers.
Okay, thanks very much for that. Very, very interesting. Beth, how about you? Advice to HR functions up and down the country in different businesses and organisations.
Well, the things that we've been actually seeing from all our different customers is there's definitely not been any letting up on the utilisation of all the services that we have. In actual fact, businesses have been getting more in contact with us to use all of the value add services. They're all of a sudden thinking, oh my goodness, well-being needs to be at the forefront. What have we got? And we can't afford to buy anything extra. So what have we already got built in? And so we're seeing more people getting in touch with us. I've actually got something about a 50% increase in workshops that we're doing, obviously via webinar this month compared to last year, which is a massive jump. And people are just kind of getting things out there a lot quicker and thinking how they can support their staff. I think well-being is more important now than it ever has been, and therefore businesses unfortunately are backtracking and starting to think, what can I fix now, as opposed to how could I have, like what Suki was saying, could have had this great setup to start off with. I think businesses need to be creative now. We need to be thinking, well, this isn't just going to be 3 weeks, 6 weeks, it's indefinite until things are a little bit more stable in the bigger picture. So we've got to be creative into how we can support our staff and keep them well engaged, not zoomed out, not, that sort of thing. And I think if a business is trying to think about what their future looks like, you need to look at where your pinch points were before, because they're still going to be there, and they're actually going to still remain unless you start looking at your health and wellbeing strategy and what it was even before you even got started, because it's not going to miraculously have changed. Your issues were there and now they're still there, but they're probably magnified. So thinking what you were looking at in terms of the health and wellbeing strategy, thinking about those kind of mental health standards that were set 2-3 years ago now, and are you even meeting them? Because if you weren't meeting them before, you won't be meeting them now, and that is where some of the issues are going to be. So just thinking about the support the line managers need, and thinking about, for me, I'm always going back to the mental health standards and those 5 ways of well-being. So give, connect, take notice, keeping active and learning, and are you giving those opportunities to your business and your staff, but then also yourself as well. That's what I would say.
Yeah, there's some really, really interesting things there, and I think that it's been, HR functions, and then as both Suki and yourself have said, anybody who manages people, who works with people, who teams, just the focus on well-being. We've spent a lot of time working with organisations and understanding HR functions and what's important to them. And once this whole situation kicked in, my team works closely with Debi's team. When you step back and say, well, what has been important to an HR function for the past 12 to 18 months, because we map our capabilities onto that. And then you say, hang on a minute, what's really important? It's always been important, Beth, as you've said there, but it's just not been at the forefront of people's minds. Now you say, hang on a minute, this has always been important, but boom, this whole thing's kicked off and now it's really important. So we're trying to reframe our narrative around how can we help with some of that, not just from a technology perspective. Really interesting. Jenna, from an inside Oracle HR perspective, I know it's a bit tough to ask what advice would you give yourself, but you're part of our HR function. You mentioned in the opening question, there's 5,000 Oracle employees in the UK that you're part of the machine to look after and care for. What's the current view within the HR function at Oracle UK?
Well, yeah, I think from my point of view, you have to be strategic and targeted in some respects, but also there's that thing around, there's just one size doesn't fit all. There's going to be so many different people with so many different challenges that are going to keep changing as the current situation keeps changing. So a piece that I think is really important is trying to help empower managers to look at the individuals they have in their teams and support them, because ultimately, if somebody's got an issue, they're going to go to their manager. Hopefully they feel comfortable to do that, and the manager needs to know how to support them. So what are your resources? What do you already have? Do people have easy access to them? Do they know about them? Are there additional things that you can tap into from your existing providers? So obviously Beth mentioned there that Unum are a provider for Oracle. You do loads of amazing stuff that we can tap into, but there's going to be loads of stuff out there that you already have that you probably don't know or use currently. So it's just thinking about how do you put that all in one place and make it as easy as possible for your managers to support the staff going forward is where I think a focus should be at the moment.
It's really interesting, and I think I kind of touched on that point just when I responded to Beth's question. We came into our fourth quarter, it starts in March, folks, so we came into normally the busiest time of the year, and with my management team who manage teams of individuals, then your orientation was just about all the work we had to do and to close the financial year out. And in the middle of March, forget all of that, right? Our people are our most important asset, and you just put your full focus on looking after the teams at an individual level, at a team level. And it's been really hard because a lot of those teams were already wired. They've been working on things for 9 months or so that were due to crystallize. And it's hard to say, forget all of that. We're in, sorry to use the word unprecedented times again, but we were at that time. Let's devote a lot more energy and time to looking after our people, and we'll see where the business gets to. So clearly, don't tell my boss that, but that's kind of what we had to do. And it's been great to see everybody come up with loads of different ideas and techniques, and how much time they've genuinely invested in doing that's been fantastic. And Debi, I know obviously you manage a team as well in Oracle, and leading on from Jenna's point there. What have you done with your team around just making sure they're okay and picking up some of the themes that people have talked about here?
Well, what I would like to say, Anton, is my team have been amazingly responsive, and to use that word again, resilient. But what I would say is also our ability to listen to the customers And I think that is, you know, when you think genuinely listen, not just give it lip service, listening and hearing what they're saying. And so from a technology point of view, the overwhelming benefit we've heard and what we've been able to do is those customers in the cloud, they've been able to adapt and continue to support their organizations. Because that ability to go and enable people to work from home, we've taken the stress away from how do we keep people operational? How do we support them in these challenging times to adapt as easily and as quickly as possible? And what we did was we were going out to our customers, as you will know, and we were talking to them and really hearing some of the challenges that they were facing, the issues they were facing as the crisis evolved and continues to come out the other side as we talk about the unlocking. And what we saw is that vibrant community talking with us as one, be that a customer, be that a partner, be that our own Oracle colleagues, all trying to understand what can we do to help you. More importantly, how can we make your lives easier to take away the pressures and the stress so that you can get on with doing your job without having to worry about managing a crisis. So things like creating reports to understand the segmentation of their employee base. We've all heard about where this crisis was hitting, the demographics of age profile. If we think about capturing information relating to COVID-19. So what we were doing was building reports in the background, creating configuration documents and sharing them in the cloud community so that everybody could have access to them free of charge, and saying, you know what, we will help you. We will remove that risk for you so that you can focus on the business and yourself rather than trying to understand technology, rather than understanding how to build things or create new configurations. We will do the heavy lifting for you so you can be kind to yourself, focus on the business and do the things you need to do rather than trying to learn new skill sets. And for me, the one top tip I came out with was it was a team effort. That was Oracle, partners, customers working together for the greater good. So back to what you said, Suti, there's no I in all of this. There are individuals, but the way we got through it was because we were a community together in this and keep coming through it. So for me, my team and myself was very much focused on what can we do for our customers, because they were the most important, and how do we de-risk it for them and de-stress them.
Great, thank you. Thank you. We're going to get some questions, or maybe get some questions from the participants in a bit. But projecting forwards, I think, you know, we've touched on this discussion the fact that this will be here for a while, a period of time, indeterminate, who knows, but a while. What key learnings out of everything we've discussed? What key priorities and focus areas after the last 7 or 8 weeks? And things are in, you know, we're stably operating various businesses, small, medium, large, and working with our teams of people. What are the key focus areas moving forwards on that midterm time frame? Because that's what everybody's looking at now. I'll open that up. What do you think?
I think for the midterm time frame, Anton, you know, it's such a cliche, but this is a marathon, not a sprint.
Yeah.
And if there was ever a time for us to understand that health and well-being needs to be like a key strategic driver, it isn't a nice to have, it isn't a tag it on when you've got mental health awareness days. So to me, it is equipping our people to be resilient for the longer term. So when we say this might be our new normal till the end of this year.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, thanks. Beth, Jenna, Debi, anything to add to that? This prolonged period of time where you're working?
Yeah, I mean, the words that came to my mind, which Suki just said there, was the new norm. So it's, you know, we might not go back to what we know is familiar to us. So how do we now adapt and help people keep adapting going forward? Yeah, adjusting really and thinking of better ways to do things, new things, avoiding that kind of burnout feeling, like you said, Suki. You know, we have to keep revisiting things that do make us resilient and putting a spotlight on that rather than just, you know, here and there. It needs to be embedded. So for me, it's that new norm piece is really key.
Great, thanks. Okay. Jenna, Debi, anything to add to that? What does the next 6 months look like?
Communicate with each other, because that communication for me has been critical. It's easy to assume things, but when you're actually in lockdown or coming out of it, you actually don't know how people are coping. So the fact you can communicate, you understand where everybody is, how to help and support each other through this, because we are in it together. And therefore that communication for me will be critical going forward. Great.
And the stuff I've been thinking about with customers, certain customers have been asking us how to support them in the next phases, you know, of the kind of coming out of here, because some businesses are able to sort of start up again. Yeah. The hospital, some of the restaurants and things like that. And what we're actually thinking about is that next level of the psychological impact. We've had that kind of response to change and how people are feeling, and they've almost kind of just got used to this, and now we're coming in saying, oh, we're going to change everything again, you've got to start coming back to work or getting out and about. There's going to be health anxiety related to that travel exposure, change back into an environment, and then kind of managing to have relationships with people when we might be wearing face masks, we've got to keep distance, people are anxious just generally. And then attached with that is that deconditioning and fatigue piece. It's so easy to forget the amount we do in a day, or did in a day, compared with what we're doing now in terms of our energy levels. Even just the other morning, I could hear the train going past and we were still in bed, and that's the train that my husband would normally be getting on. But everything's a slower pace of life now, and I think those are things that we need to be starting to think about in terms of that next stage will be getting our energy levels back, how that's going to impact on people when they start socializing, getting out and about more, and then the physiological, like the psychological response to that will drain people again as well. So that's kind of the bits that I'd be thinking about.
Okay, I think the interesting aspect I've looked at with my teams is, and I'm sure this is at the forefront, Jenna, you touched on this earlier on, we're all heading into the second half of the year and hardly anybody's taking any holidays. And the holiday aspect for families, and obviously holidays affect work because you're away from work. I think that's really starting to occupy my mind around how you balance people need a break and a proper break. I know we talked earlier on around folks having long weekends this weekend with the bank holiday, but we're talking a proper 2-week downtime, certainly with a family. I think that's a big challenge moving forwards that we all need to think about. I'm certainly thinking about it because normally we'd have processes and guidelines to follow around the number of people off, and yet people need time away and almost all bets are off really. So that's a key challenge in my head for sure.
Absolutely. I've been encouraging, my clients to encourage their people to be taking leave, whatever that looks like, because I totally echo what Beth is saying. This next phase with all of the nuances of restriction lockdown is going to be far more psychologically traumatic than actual lockdown was for many of us. So I think we're in the real danger of heading people to burnout if we're not balancing all of that and having some downtime away from our screens, away from technology, away from work.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, listen, I know we passed the half hour. We were going to pick up some Q&A, so if we could have a look just now. I think a question just been posted. I think we've touched on some of this, but it's worth mentioning. Eva, thanks very much for the question. What key things, work activities are you wanting to focus on post-lockdown, especially bringing the mindset back onto business as usual, whatever BAU may look like? So I think we've touched on some of that, but there's maybe some nuances we could unpack a little bit. Anybody got any commentary around that one?
In terms of, oh, sorry, we all stay quiet and then everyone meant to speak. Go on, Suki.
No, Beth, carry on.
It's just, I think the thing that we're doing will be very different to what HR guys are doing. Obviously, we'll be starting to deliver things like face-to-face training and things if we can, and if that's even appropriate. We don't even know what that would look like, because we could do mass groups of people when that can't happen. So we'll be continuing to evolve how we can deliver our service, continuing to review people's well-being and mental health strategies, and partner with businesses as much as possible when they've kind of found what they need us to do. do. And that's what I think is actually providers' response is going to be what businesses need. And we're going to have to be quite agile in waiting to see how businesses actually do want to move going forward. So I don't think that's really answered that particular question, because I'm coming at it from a slightly different angle.
Yeah. Okay, got you.
From
Okay.
my point of view, Anton, what I would say is when we think of what Oracle's doing, we're
Yeah.
still very much in listening mode and understanding where customers are going to be, as you say, Suki, as we come out of lockdown, and how people are adjusting and businesses are adjusting. What do they need, and what support will they need to help them support them adapt to this new normal that you're talking about? And technology has clearly been an enabler to keep a lot of organizations moving forward in these unprecedented times. So what can we do to help support that technology change for them and adapting to that very quickly, which we've seen lots of organizations do, and how we can share the benefits of that across other organizations by sharing experiences. So we'll be looking at what that looks like, how we can support them, and taking them forward through that.
And I think for us at Happy Maven, with a professional hat on, I think it's a word that Debi used earlier. It's listen. It's, you know, for me to listen to my team. It's for, you know, for us to listen to our clients, and for us to encourage our clients to listen to their people, because for us to navigate this new normal, people's priorities are going to have shifted. People's purpose drivers are going to have been shifted, and business, you know, priorities may well have shifted. And if you're talking about me personally, what do I want to focus on? I miss the energy of people, so I just can't wait to just be in a space with the energy of other people.
Yes, so do I. It's been absolutely unbelievable, I must admit. And we normally have had a lot of energy the last couple of months and a lot of people face-to-face time, but hey, we don't, so that's fine. Listen, Debi, Suki, Beth, Jenna, thank you very much for your input. Any final comments anybody wants to make? Not a problem if not. We've had some really great input there. Thank you very much. I will just wrap up. You can make some final comments after this if you want to. If not, no problem. Folks, we have the next series that you can see on the screen of these sessions, which have been really, really useful. I know the previous series have been really well attended and really useful to lots of folks. Some fascinating perspective on things. You see the schedule here. The registration link is contained. And these will be made available. Please try and put some of these in your diary. And unless there are any final comments, I would just like to say thank you very much to our panelists, Debi, Suki, Beth, and Jenna. Thanks very much for your time. And thanks everyone for attending. Okay.
I just want to make one final comment, Anton,
okay,
if that's okay. Sorry to have interrupted.
No, that's what I was hopeful for. Absolutely.
It's Mental Health Awareness Week, and the theme for this week is kindness. So I'm just going to ask everybody on the call to extend that kindness to themselves. You cannot look after others. You cannot worry about your business or your team or anything if you're not okay yourself. So put your own oxygen mask on first. Be kind to yourself. And that's my final words. Thank you, Anton.
Suki, thanks very much. Yeah, I did, going against the grain, I did exactly that last night at 6 o'clock when I opened a beer on a school night instead of going for a run, and just said, I'm going to be kind to myself for an hour. And it was a lovely day. And it was a fantastic hour. It was great. So thank you for that. Okay, folks, thank you very much indeed. That was fantastic. Take care and stay safe and keep well.
Bye-bye.
Bye.